Welcome to the Kenya Wantam Notam Movement, or KWM podcast. This is where we take a deep dive into, well, crucial topics and the source materials really shaping our world today. And today, we're unpacking a really specific, quite potent document. It's from the Kenya Wantam Notam Movement itself, titled The 3R Ruto Rogue Regime Must Be Brought Down, Why Ruto's Rule Cannot Continue.
And just for clarity, that 3R term, that's the KWM's label for the current administration.
Right, exactly. So our mission, in this deep dive is really to explore the specific claims, the perspectives that the KWM articulates right there in that document. We want to help you understand their core arguments just as they present them.
Yeah, and what's key here, I think, is how the KWM lays out its case. Our goal, like you said, isn't to agree or disagree, not to endorse or refute. It's just to clearly present what the KWM is actually saying. We're drawing directly from their own words, the specific examples they give in their text. Basically, we're here to distill their viewpoint, straight from the source material, give you a clear window into their analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be walking through it's pretty comprehensive critique. It touches on some major themes. Things like deepening economic hardship, what they call pervasive corruption, the burden of national debt.
The plight of the youth, concerns about devolution, the rule of law.
Exactly. All of that.
Yeah.
It's a detailed document, and we're going to try and break down each of these areas. Let's start with what the KWM describes as screams in the silence of the poor.
Indeed. The document, it really opens with this powerful, quite immediate image. It paints a vivid picture of daily life, particularly in Nairobi, where, as the KWM puts it, hunger grows louder, not quieter.
Yeah.
They really aim to establish this palpable sense of, widespread suffering right from the very beginning.
And they really try to bring this point home. They use specific examples, things that are clearly meant to resonate deeply with people. We're talking about claims like children chasing bodabodas, those motorcycle taxis, just for coins. Or minors being unable to afford even basic painkillers. This leads, they say, to clinics just handing out paracetamol without resolution. It's quite a statement.
It is.
The KWM explicitly states a loaf of bread is half a day's labor. Now, if that's accurate, it paints a really stark picture of just the daily economic struggle.
Absolutely.
They even highlight this reality where people fear getting sick, not because of the illness itself, but, because of the huge cost of treatment. The document also claims schools are billing parents for desks they never actually see.
Right.
And students walking barefoot, even despite claims of free education. It suggests a real breakdown in basic social services, according to their view.
And what's compelling here, I think, is how the KWM frames this economic hardship. It's not just presented as, an unfortunate outcome or some kind of natural drift.
Wow.
They assert it's deliberate neglect packaged as focus. That's their phrase. They argue that while, quote, the regime speaks of progress, the only thing that's truly spreading fast is, quote, suffering. So this suggests the KWM sees a really fundamental clash here. An ideological one, almost, between the government's stated priorities and the actual lived reality of many citizens. Grand projects get highlighted, but basic human needs, they claim, remain unmet.
So from those, tough daily realities on the streets, the KWM's document then shifts its focus. It looks at the very structures of power, particularly what they term the open thieves market. And they really don't shy away from strong accusations here.
No, they don't.
They claim corruption isn't just hidden away, it's practiced quite overtly.
And this is a critical point for the KWM because it seems to go beyond just individual acts of wrongdoing. It really raises this important question about how the KWM views the nature of corruption itself.
Right.
They explicitly state, and this is a direct quote, corruption isn't just a problem, it's the structure. The 3R regime isn't incompetent, it's complicit. That assertion suggests a really systemic issue, doesn't it?
It really does. Complicit, not just incompetent.
Yeah, where corruption is seen as, embedded in the very foundation of governance, according to their analysis.
And the KWM tries to back this strong assertion up with several pretty pointed examples. They claim things like contractors are paid billions before lifting a finger. And that government appointees declare assets that look more like confessions than disclosures, a very vivid phrase. They allege that tenders are essentially political currency, meaning contracts aren't awarded on merit, but are, quote, inherited through loyalty, forged in campaign deals and tribal allegiance. They also claim things like public land is sold over lunch and budgets vanish into ghost projects. It creates this pervasive environment where even journalists, they say, who write the truth live with constant fear.
So they're painting a picture of corruption as like the central way things operate, not just some fringe problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if the KWM sees corruption as the actual structure of governance, how does that view then, inform their critique of something as fundamental as the national budget?
Yeah.
They describe each budget cycle as feeling like a crime scene,
Yeah.
which brings us to their perspective on blood on the budget.
Well, the KWM's document interprets that whole budgetary process as a deliberate strategy to control. That's the phrase they use. They claim the regime essentially funds silence and kills dissent.
Mm-hmm.
So, according to their text, this isn't just about, financial mismanagement or incompetence. It's presented as an actual mechanism of power, designed, they argue, to reward loyalty and punish dissent among different regions, different institutions.
And the specific claims they make are quite stark, actually. The KWM points to members of parliament apparently, quote, nodding and clapping while nurses protest outside government gates,
Yeah.
highlighting this perceived disconnect.
Yeah.
They scrutinize health allocations, claiming millions for equipment, but none for staff. And they lament that hospitals run dry on gloves, while at the same time, those in power fly abroad for checkups.
A stark contrast they're drawing there.
Definitely. The KWM also alleges the budget itself has become a tool of punishment, where counties that, dare to speak up find themselves financially crippled.
Mm-hmm.
They even mention specific places, Kianjakoma to Amali, citing incidents that, according to the KWM, tragically exemplify their claim that the price of protest is death in those areas.
Wow.
So they're painting this picture where fiscal planning is used to, quote, reward the loyal, starve the rest.
Okay. So beyond the sort of daily economic struggles and the alleged corruption, the KWM raises another really profound concern. This one's about the long-term burden on the nation. They call it the debt no one voted for, focusing on, the soaring national debt.
Right. That's a huge issue globally, but
Yeah.
they're focusing on the specifics here.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here, I think, is the KWM's assertion that, quote, sovereignty was traded for quick cash, and also that debt under Ruto isn't an accident, it's governance by IOU.
Governance by IOU.
Yeah. They're painting a picture of a calculated strategy where accumulating debt isn't just an unfortunate side effect or, a simple economic necessity, but a deliberate way of operating. And this, they suggest, leads to a perceived erosion of national autonomy.
That's a very, very strong assertion.
Mm.
The KWM document states that every child born today arrives owing a debt, yet no one recalls agreeing to this.
Yeah.
They allege that loan deals are signed, behind closed doors, terms hidden, and collateral unknown.
Which points to a lack of transparency.
Exactly. A profound lack of transparency and accountability, they argue. The KWM also expresses this concern that international lenders now have more say in Kenya's future than the electorate, which is a fundamental point about democracy. They point to things like roads to nowhere, empty stadiums, and ghost projects as examples of what this debt has supposedly funded. And they warn, quite darkly, that debt collectors don't care. When repayment time comes, they'll seize ports, power plants, and more.
A grim forecast from their perspective.
Very grim. Now, transitioning to the future, or maybe the KWM's rather bleak assessment of it for a specific group, they discuss the youth were promised the future, they got funeral announcements. This section really addresses what they see as profound despair among young people in Kenya, a critical part of the population, obviously.
Yeah, and the KWM's document here suggests the youth are, quote, cornered, and that the regime, again quoting, didn't give them ladders, he built fences.
Ladders versus fences.
Right. It frames the significant social and economic challenge not just as, bad luck or an economic downturn, but as a deliberate outcome. It implies a betrayal of promises and a calculated restriction of opportunity.
It's a really sharp critique, isn't it, of what was promised versus what they claim has actually been delivered. The KWM claims that instead of the promised bottom-up revolution, what the youth have actually received is despair.
Mm-hmm.
They allege things like graduates sell eggs at bus stops, and others vanish without a trace. They point to climbing suicide rates among young people, which is deeply concerning, if accurate.
Terribly concerning.
They even go so far as calling it identity theft, where, quote, the regime stole their dreams and called it policy. Initiatives like the Hustler Fund, which was meant to empower small entrepreneurs, are described as loans that turn hustlers into beggars.
So, twisting the intent, they argue?
That's what they argue, yeah.
Yeah.
And youth programs are seen as just handouts for votes. And the KWM notes, with maybe a touch of irony, that the only thriving sector is betting, the only one the government hasn't taxed yet.
That's a biting observation.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now let's shift focus slightly to county autonomy. In Kenya, this is enshrined through a system called devolution, which is designed to decentralize power and resources away from the capital down to local governments.
A key pillar of the Constitution, really.
Absolutely. But the KWM claims this cornerstone of governance has been fundamentally undermined. They describe it as counties as hostages.
And this raises, again, an important question about the balance of power, doesn't it? The KWM asserts that Ruto's regime didn't just hijack devolution, they used the word neutered it.
Neutered. Strong word.
Very strong. It suggests a deliberate centralizing of power that profoundly impacts how counties can actually function independently and serve their local populations. It's about undermining the whole spirit of decentralization, according to their document.
And the document goes into detail about how this alleged undermining happens. It claims governors have become little more than glorified errand boys, with budgets delayed, disbursements blocked, and criticism punished. The KWM alleges that, quote, Nairobi demands loyalty, not service, and that if counties speak up, they can, quote, expect audit threats, arrests, or even disappearance.
Those are serious allegations.
Extremely serious. The ripple effect, according to the KWM, is dire. Things like county hospitals closing for lack of resources, and teachers remaining unpaid. The KWM states that while, quote, the money is there, the national government essentially holds the keys, selectively feeding counties that beg and ignoring those that demand.
So controlling the purse strings is a form of control itself.
That seems to be their core argument there. Finally, the KWM brings its critique right to the bedrock of governance itself. Highlighting concerns over the erosion of the rule of law. They state that for them, law was the victim.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the KWM document concludes this particular section with a really stark assessment. They say, if this is democracy, then dictatorship has just gotten a facelift.
Wow, that's quite the statement.
It is. It paints a severe picture of the state of governance, according to their analysis, suggesting a fundamental subversion of democratic principles and institutions.
And they back this up with specific claims again. They say court orders have become mere suggestions that the police serve the presidency, not the people. They allege that activists are jailed on trumped-up charges and judges are humiliated, with the whole justice system limping under the weight of political interference.
Undermining judicial independence, essentially.
That's what they're alleging. The document also claims elections no longer end. They extend indefinitely, and petitions rot in corridors. They highlight that tribunal chairs are appointed by those under scrutiny, which raises obvious conflict of interest questions, and that laws are rewritten mid-crisis while protesters are beaten. The KWM, they pull no punches, describing Parliament as just a rubber stamp. And they conclude that checks and balances, they've been cashed and bounced, basically indicating a total breakdown of constitutional oversight from their point of view.
So when you take all these pieces together, the daily struggles, the systemic corruption claims, the debt burden, youth despair, devolution issues, the rule of law concerns, it really builds towards this crescendo of frustration for the KWM.
Absolutely. And it leads them very clearly, very assertively, to a call to action. Their document isn't just critique for critique's sake. It's presented as a movement towards fundamental change.
Yeah, this really highlights the KWM's deep commitment, as they state it, to a galvanizing collective action, to demanding accountability. Their stated belief, and it's quite profound, is that the presidency in Kenya is a matter of life and death, rethinking leadership for a peaceful future. They clearly see this as a pivotal moment for the nation, one that requires, broad-based citizen engagement to shift the country's entire trajectory.
And the overall message from their document is, well, it's unequivocal. The title says it. The Ruto rogue regime must be brought down. They include a direct notice to current all future presidents, stating, "Skiza wekenya skiza ground," or be impeached, be kicked out by our votes, even before Kenkame ends.
And that phrase, "Skiza wekenya skiza ground," it roughly translates to listen Kenyans, listen to the ground, right? Listen to the people.
Exactly. Listen to the grassroots. They also list related KWM articles that really reinforce this sentiment. Titles like "The Time for Change is Now," "The Police, Army, and Kenyan Citizens Must Unite," or "Why William Ruto Must Be Impeached, It's Time for Change," and even "The Time for Revolution in Kenya Has Arrived, Taking Back What Is Rightfully Ours."
So it's clear they're pushing for really fundamental, transformative change, and they see collective action as the way to achieve it.
Definitely. Now, as you hear the depth of these concerns raised by the Kenya Wantam Notam movement, and they're pretty urgent call for change, you might be wondering, how to engage further with these ideas yourself. The KWM actively encourages robust citizen participation. So if you feel inspired by this call to share ideas that you think could help change your village, your city, your nation, well, you can visit their platform. Visit www.wantamnatam.com. That's wantamnotam.com. You can create an account there and start sharing your own ideas. It's designed as a space for that kind of collective thought and action, just as the movement itself envisions it.
A platform for participation.
Exactly. So wrapping up this deep dive into the Kenya Wantam Notam movement's document, it really provides, I think, a clear window into their detailed critiques and their compelling vision for change in Kenya.
It does.
It's a powerful reminder, really, that informed citizens, even when they're raising difficult, maybe uncomfortable questions, play such a vital role in shaping their nation's discourse and, ultimately, holding power to account.
And perhaps this raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider. How do platforms like the KWM, platforms that synthesize and articulate these specific public grievances, how do they contribute to, or maybe even reshape, the national conversations around governance and accountability?
That's a great point.
And, what role do citizens themselves play in amplifying or acting upon these kinds of perspectives?
Yeah, something definitely worth thinking about. So if you want to delve deeper into the KWM's specific articles, understand their viewpoints directly from their source material, or, like we mentioned, if you feel compelled to contribute your own ideas for change, remember to visit their website. That's www.wantamnotam.com. Create your account, start sharing your ideas that you believe can help change your village, your city, and your nation.
Get involved, essentially.
Precisely. Thank you for listening to the Kenya Wantam Notam Movement, KWM podcast. We really hope this deep dive has provided you with valuable insights into the content and the perspectives presented by the KWM in their document.